You ever notice how, in the silent little movie running inside your head, you're always the hero? The noble one, the misunderstood, chosen one, the person who meant well, even when you lit half your life on fire. It's adorable, really. We craft this fantasy version of ourselves the same way kids build pillow forts, flimsy, crooked, and one sneeze away from collapsing. And no one embodies this delusion better than Finn, the kid with the white hat and the moral compass that points, well, wherever his hormones decide. Because when you first watch Adventure Time, everything feels clean. Finn equals good. Ice King equals bad. Save princess. Get rewarded. Bedtime. It's the same mental cartoon most people carry into adulthood. A world of simple villains and pure intentions, where you are always justified because you're the good person. Convenient, right? But the real world, just like the land of OO, eventually stops playing along. The colors get messy. Motives get ugly. And suddenly, the hero you thought you were looks a lot more like, well, a teenager playing God with ant-sized people because he's bored. And here's the brutal twist. Finn's biggest enemy was never the Ice King. It was the version of himself he thought he had to be. Sound familiar? How many times have you done something selfish, harmful, or straight up stupid, only to defend yourself with that magic phrase? But I'm a good person. Congratulations. You've unlocked Hero Delusion, level 99. Real maturity, the kind no one puts on inspirational posters, starts the moment you admit the truth. You're not the protagonist because you're righteous. You're the protagonist because your brain has no other camera to film from. And if you want to grow up, like actually grow up, not the Instagram quote kind, you have to let the hero mask crack a little. Just like Finn did, when the world stopped fitting his story. There's a childish belief we all secretly hold on to. The idea that if we're good, if we try hard, if we follow the rules, life will reward us. As if the universe is some kind of cosmic customer service desk handing out prizes for good behavior. Cute theory, absolutely useless in practice. Because eventually, life does what life does best. It grabs you by the shirt, shakes you around, and drops you face first into the mud without even leaving a note. And that's exactly what happened to Finn. His punch wasn't a breakup, or a bad grade, or even a villain he couldn't beat. It was meeting his father, the man he'd glorified in his head for years, only to discover the truth. A selfish, unreliable grifter who'd abandoned his own son without blinking, and who literally cost Finn an arm before walking away like he misplaced a grocery cart. That scene? That moment? It's the emotional equivalent of a universe saying, grow up, kid. And here's the part no self-help book wants to tell you. Trauma doesn't make you stronger. Not immediately. Not magically. Not poetically. Most of the time, it makes you bitter, confused, and exhausted. Just look at Finn. He didn't meditate on a mountain. He didn't journal his feelings. He didn't become a better man. He got angry. He built a tower out of spite, a skyscraper of pure vengeance, reaching for space like a kid trying to hit the reset button on existence. And when revenge didn't fix anything, because it never does, he did what most humans secretly do. He shut down, emotionally unplugged, went numb, pretended the pain wasn't real. Sound familiar? Think of the last time life blindsided you. Did you become wise and enlightened? Or did you eat junk food at 2 a.m. while ignoring texts and pretending everything was fine? Exactly. But here's the truth. None of this makes you weak. None of this makes you broken beyond repair. It makes you human. Growth doesn't happen in the dramatic breakthroughs. It happens in the quiet moments when you stop trying to pretend you're okay and start learning how to stand again, even if it's on one metaphorical arm. Let's talk about you. The responsible one, the stable one, the reliable one, the friend who holds everything together while everyone else's life collapses like wet cardboard. You know exactly who you are. You're the person who remembers the deadlines. You organize the plans. You clean up the messes. You solve the problems. You fix what everyone else breaks. And people praise you for it. Wow, you're so mature. So dependable. We'd be lost without you. How flattering. How sweet. How convenient for them. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Being the responsible one feels good. Right up until it doesn't. Right up until your entire identity becomes a job you didn't apply for. right up until you wake up one day and realize you've spent your whole life acting like the emotional janitor of everyone around you. And that's exactly what Princess Bubblegum teaches us, in the brightest, pinkest, most deceptively cheerful way possible. PB is the queen of competence, the genius, the planner, the leader, the one who always has everything under control, which sounds admirable until you realize she's also spying on her own citizens, running a soft dictatorship, and casually committing ethical crimes for the greater good. Her entire life is a giant to-do list, and her sanity depends on checking every box. Why? Because responsibility is the perfect hiding spot. When you're busy saving the world, you never have to admit that you're exhausted, lonely, or scared. Sound familiar? You drown yourself in obligations. Work, family, relationships, favors, expectations. Because focusing on everyone else is easier than looking at your own emotional mess. It's the socially acceptable addiction. No one judges you for being too responsible. You get rewarded for it. But here's the catch. Responsibility is control wearing a polite little mask. Bubblegum doesn't delegate because she doesn't trust anyone. She doesn't slow down because she's terrified everything will fall apart without her. And so, she becomes a queen in a kingdom where she can't be vulnerable. Because vulnerability requires trust, and trust requires surrendering control. That's a prison, and it might be yours too. Because when you're always the strong one, you never let anyone see you break. And when no one sees you break, no one realizes that you need help. You become invisible, essential, respected, but unseen, until you crash. PB only breaks when she loses everything, when her identity as the responsible one evaporates and she's finally forced to confront the truth. She's tired. She's human. She can't carry her world alone, and neither can you. Your strength is admirable, but it's also killing you softly. Being reliable isn't a personality. Being needed isn't the same as being loved. And being the adult in every room doesn't make you a hero. It makes you someone who's afraid to put the weight down. So here's your uncomfortable reminder. You don't have to save everyone to deserve to be here. You don't have to hold everything together. And you don't have to sacrifice your emotions on the altar of responsibility. The real courage, the kind Bubblegum learns the hard way, isn't in doing more. It's in stopping, asking for help, and admitting something terrifying. I can't do this alone, and you shouldn't have to. Let's flip the coin. If Princess Bubblegum is what happens when responsibility becomes control, then the Ice King is what happens when heartbreak becomes personality. Because the Ice King wasn't always a villain. He wasn't always lonely, desperate, or delusional. He was Simon, a normal man trying to protect a child in a dying world. And that's what makes his transformation so disturbing. He didn't become a monster because he was evil. He became a monster because he was overwhelmed. When the crown took over his mind, he didn't lose his power. He lost his memory, his identity, his emotional grounding, everything that made him human. Ask yourself something uncomfortable. What do you become when you're overwhelmed? Most people don't put on a magic crown, but they do something very similar. They shut down. They numb out. They detach from their emotions because feeling them hurts too much. And here's the twist most people never realize. Numbness doesn't protect you. It rewires you. Just like the crown. You stop crying. You stop opening up. You stop trusting. You stop hoping. At first, it feels like strength, like you're finally in control. But slowly, almost invisibly, you become someone else. Someone colder. Someone distant. Someone who pushes people away and then wonders why no one stays. People say the Ice King is crazy, but the truth is darker. He's traumatized, lonely, disconnected from every version of himself he ever loved. He wants affection so badly that he destroys every chance he gets. He wants connection so desperately that he suffocates anyone who offers it. He's the tragic result of a universal human mistake. When you try to avoid emotional pain, you end up losing emotional depth. And that's the real warning. When you suppress sadness, you also suppress joy. When you avoid heartbreak, you also avoid love. When you hide your fear, you also hide your humanity. You can't selectively numb emotions. The brain doesn't work like that. It's all or nothing. That's how you end up like Ice King. Alive but not living. Surrounded by people but alone. Talking constantly but never saying anything real. And here's the irony. The monster is not the ice. The monster is the isolation. Simon didn't need the crown. He needed connection. He needed someone to stay with him in the pain instead of trying to erase it. And so do you. Because healing isn't about becoming stronger. It's about becoming softer again. Letting yourself feel. Letting yourself remember. Letting yourself be human, even when it hurts. The crown you wear might not be made of magic, but still heavy. And one day, if you don't take it off, you'll forget the version of yourself who put it on in the first place. Here's a truth nobody wants to accept. Most people don't think. They react. They confuse opinions with reasoning, impulses with intuition, and emotions with facts. But here's the twist. It's not because people are stupid. It's because thinking, truly thinking, is emotionally expensive. And that's where Princess Bubblegum and Ice King collide in the most unexpected way. On one side, you have pure logic, cold, strategic controlling. On the other, pure emotion, chaotic, overwhelming, unpredictable. But here's the uncomfortable reality. Both of them are wrong. Both of them are incomplete. Because real, critical thinking, the kind that saves your life, shapes your identity, and prevents your mind from eating itself, doesn't come from logic alone or emotion alone. It comes from the tension between the two. Think of it like this. Princess Bubblegum represents the part of you that wants control. The part that says, plan everything, stay safe, don't take risks, stay in charge. Ice King represents the part of you that wants connection. The part that says, feel everything, love deeply, jump in, don't overthink. But your real self, your aware self, is the observer caught between them. That internal battlefield is where critical thinking is born. Not in certainty, not in comfort, not in confidence, but in hesitation. Critical thinking begins the moment you stop assuming and start questioning. Why do I believe what I believe? Why do I react this way? What am I afraid of? Is this logic? Or is this trauma dressed as logic? Is this emotion? Or is this ego pretending to be emotion? Every time you question your own mind, you sharpen it. Every time you hold your emotions without letting them control you, you strengthen it. Every time you challenge a belief you inherited, not chose, you reclaim ownership of yourself. And this is the real reason so few people develop critical thinking. It requires emotional courage, not intelligence, not education, not books. Courage. The courage to be wrong. The courage to walk alone. The courage to update your beliefs instead of protecting them. Most minds are locked cages, not because they lack the key, but because they're afraid of what happens when the door opens. Critical thinking is what happens when you finally open that door and step outside, even if the air is cold, even if the light hurts your eyes, even if the world is bigger than you expected. Princess Bubblegum teaches you structure. Ice King teaches you vulnerability. But you, the observer between logic and emotion, you are the one who becomes free. There's a moment in everyone's life when your own mind becomes your enemy. Not because you're broken, not because you're overthinking, but because you finally reach the edge of who you used to be. That moment usually feels like this. You're sitting alone, the room is quiet, and suddenly a thought hits you like a punch. What if everything I believed was never mine? Your culture, your habits, your reactions, your fears, even your definition of success or happiness. How much it was chosen, how much of it was downloaded into you. This is the identity crisis nobody talks about, the one that actually marks the beginning of real critical thinking. And to understand it, I want you to picture Mordecai from Regular Show. He's that guy who always drifts into decisions, who gets pulled by emotion, who avoids confronting himself, because it's easier to just go with the flow. But then imagine him stopping, just once, and thinking, why do I always do this? Why am I so scared of choosing? That terrifying moment, that pause, where self-honesty finally breaks through. That's the birthplace of a new mind. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Critical thinking doesn't start when you learn something new. It starts when you have the courage to question the old. To ask yourself, is this belief protecting me or limiting me? Is this habit comforting me or slowly destroying me? Is this emotion guiding me or manipulating me? Most people never ask, not because they can't, but because the answers might require them to change. And change is painful to the part of your brain that worships familiarity like a religion. But here's the twist. When your mind starts questioning everything, when your thoughts become loud and uncomfortable, when you feel like the world doesn't make sense anymore, that's not the collapse of your identity. That's the upgrading of it. The confusion you feel is not a sign of weakness. It's the friction created when your old self is dying and your real self is being born. Critical thinking is not clean. It's not pretty. It's not aesthetic or poetic or tidy. It's chaotic. It's uncomfortable. It tears down your illusions, one brick at a time. But what emerges afterwards is clarity, a clarity so sharp, it cuts the chains you didn't even know you were wearing. Because once you start thinking for yourself, once you stop running on autopilot, once you stop inheriting the world and start interpreting it, you become someone new, someone dangerous, someone independent, someone awake. And that scares people. The same way a free person always scares the ones who still live inside their own minds like prisoners. There comes a moment, so quiet, so subtle, that almost nobody notices it happening. A moment where something in you just snaps. Not violently, not dramatically, but silently, like a thread that finally reaches its limit. And suddenly, you stop playing the role the world assigned to you. You stop nodding along. You stop pretending. You stop accepting ideas just because someone older, louder, or more important told you they were true. It's the moment your obedience dies and your autonomy is born. Most people never reach this point, not because they're stupid, but because they're comfortable. Comfort is the cage. Critical thinking is the key. And breaking out requires confronting the one enemy nobody wants to face: yourself, your biases, your fears, your inherited beliefs, your lazy conclusions, your emotional shortcuts, all the mental programs that have been running your life without ever asking for your permission. And when you finally confront that version of you, the version built by society, your environment, your childhood, your insecurities, you don't feel powerful. You feel terrified because you realize the truth. You've been living inside a mind that wasn't entirely yours. But that fear, that discomfort, that inner shaking like you're stepping into unknown territory, that's the sign you're finally thinking. Real thinking. Not copying, not repeating, not agreeing, not reacting, but examining. And from that moment forward, something irreversible happens. You can never go back. You can never unsee the patterns. You can never pretend you don't notice manipulation. You can never return to a life where you accept ideas unfiltered, untested, unquestioned. You become someone different. Someone who chooses their thoughts instead of inheriting them. Someone who analyzes instead of absorbs. Someone who sees through the noise instead of drowning in it. This is the part nobody tells you. Critical thinking won't make your life easier. It'll make it clearer. You'll lose comfort, but gain self-respect. You'll lose illusions, but gain independence. You'll lose the old version of yourself, but finally meet the real one. And in the end, you'll understand why the world doesn't want people to think deeply. Because a person who truly thinks for themselves cannot be controlled, and a mind that wakes up, even once, never sleeps the same way again.